Good afternoon, my villagers. We pray to God that all is well, or at least as well as it can be under the circumstances. You see, I'm going to remind you each time I speak that we are in some serious times. No joke. But see, we have been in serious times before. And throughout those times, we've had to fight continuously. But from those fights and God's grace, we have made it through. And for those of us who are believers and know that God is our Savior, also know that as stated in Ephesians 4 said, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authority, against the power of the dark world. So see, we can't be afraid. But let me thank my team here first before I go any further for their support and undergirding my efforts here. I want to thank Sheila Bird, my producer, Juanita McClure, and Juanita, I hope you're feeling better. She was not feeling that well today. We pray that you're feeling better, my sister. My promo crew, my engineer, the great King Norm, and of course, my co-host, Rose Moore, Queen Rose. I tell you, she's very busy getting her master's degree program in psychology. But still, she provides the time to make a difference for our liberation. Rose, amongst other things, is a redeemed chaplain and a chaplain. You know, our struggle, as most, if not all struggles, come with different ideologies.
Yes.
So these two sides, I say there are two sides to every coin. You know that old saying?
Absolutely.
There are two kinds of coin, and that's true.
Absolutely.
And the coin that has been tossed in our orbit from the time we were stolen and brought over here consists of the doom and gloom. That's
Absolutely,
the one side.
my sister.
And of course, the other side is the hope and faith. And to ignore either side is to our peril. As our ancestors are from over 400 years ago, moving forward, have always had to work both sides of that coin.
Absolutely.
That's why it is imperative for us to know our history and to know those who have paved the way and given direction for us to follow. The two sides of the coin, the African coin, has always come with different ideology. So I'm always reminded of the one side where Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, Sojourner Truth,
Yes.
Fred Hampton,
Yes. God
Angela
bless them.
Davis,
Yes.
H. Rap Brown,
Yes.
the Black Panther, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X,
Absolutely.
plus others. And the other side of the coin may have been Booker T. Washington, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Congressman John Lewis, H. Philip Randolph, Fannie Lou Hamer, Nation of Islam, and many others. So our liberation, particularly in these times, need to be recognized both sides of the coin. We've been given the blueprint. We just got to work our magic now. We will survive, of course. Not only survive, but we will strive.
Absolutely.
Thrive. We will thrive.
Absolutely.
We just got to know our purpose. See, my purpose here at this podcast is to help restore our sense of who we are and what we are capable of doing. Therefore, in addition to all our black voices that I like to hear, we are bringing in experts specific for researching, developing, and finding solutions for what ails us. And what ails us, in addition to the inhumanity of enslavement, was the stripping of our humanity, our culture, our language, our music, our religion, you know. And this administration that we are under now is attempting to do that again as we speak. But with me, and I forgot to announce myself, you all know me, Ruby Williams Shivers. I'm the Unapologetic Amateur, looking for experts in Africanism. You know, now I see that many of us black people see the attack by Trump on us, you know, that maybe it's necessary for us to really begin to learn our history. If you listen to the news, and I don't, But people are expressing horrors and distress and how Trump is just being evil. Our history is being demolished, as at least it's tempting to be. The latest is the Smithsonian Institute of African American Studies. They're in Washington. Now, my church, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Garden, under the pastorship of Dr. Quick, already has students going on a college tour. And their last stop will be the Smithsonian Institute. Now, this was planned before Trump decided to destroy our history. And so now the pastor has decided to make it a specific effort as an act of civil protest to take a couple of buses. He said that Sunday. To take a couple of buses to the Smithsonian in solidarity.
I'm on board.
I'm on board also. I can do that. He's even suggested that it might be a movement where other churches in New Jersey and elsewhere come together and go together. I even saw on my Facebook page this morning where Principal Kafiti, I'm not sure what area he's from, but he made note of this fact that Trump going after the National Museum of African American History, he said, and I quote, "It's not just being omitted, it's a middle finger approach." So he's just not taking it away from him, he's doing it with a middle finger in your face type of approach. He said, however, the good thing is that his strategy will certainly awaken the sleeping giant in due time.
I believe that.
I believe that. And I think it's the time, you know?
It's been the time. It is time.
Particularly with our young people, it is sort of surreal, but as my pastor said, it's like forcing us into an appreciation to learn and appreciate who we are. We are in a struggle, you know. The interesting thing about our struggle, we have combined elements of music, storytelling, comedy, and one powerful genre of our music has been and still is jazz, you know? We know music plays an intricate role in our history, and also it served as a communication tool in our captivity.
Yes, it did.
And also as an accompaniment to work, worship, and celebration.
Yes, indeed.
Music binds us as a race together across boundaries. And today, being the end of Women History Month, we are doubly fortunate, if that can be a phrase, to have a great lady of jazz as our guest. Now, how great is that? See, reading upon the genre, it said jazz has served as a powerful medium for structural identity and resistance for African American musicians and artists, and it continues to be a platform for African musicians to express their unique cultural and perspective. My co-host, my queen, will fill you in on what she's going to be doing, and we'll read the bio, or maybe I will read it this time since you're going to fill in with what you've been doing, of our special guest, and we will ask some question. I'll read the bio, and then you get ready to tell us what you plan to do in the future.
I am indeed overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
Afternoon,
well, let me just read the bio here, and then I'll let you come in on that and
Okay.
take over.
That's fine.
We're talking about Miss Dorthane. I hope I pronounce it correct. Yes, you're going to correct me if I don't.
It's okay.
Dorthane Kurt.
Dorthane.
Kurt. NEA Jazz Master, it says. Now, I'm just going to read some. Dorthane Kurt has more than 50 years of experience in project management, concert production, music publishing, artist management, event planning, and development. Now, she's the widow of saxophonist, composer, Rashad Roland Kurt. And since his death in 1977, she had made it her mission to build his legacy while continuing to serve as the administrator of the music publishing company. In 1978, Ms. Kurt met Robert Ottenhoff, founder of WBGO Jazz 88.3. A lot of people know about that station because I've heard them talk about it even when I told them who I was bringing on.
Jazz.
A national public radio affiliate in New Jersey. He asked her to join him as one of the WBGO's founders because of her background in jazz. So she's had close relationship with the jazz world. Dubbed Newark's First Lady of Jazz, Dorthane retired from WBGO Radio Jazz 88.3 in 2018 after 4 decades as a founding employee of the award-winning public radio station. Ms. Kirk is also very active in her church, Bethany Baptist Church in Newark, New Jersey, under the leadership of Reverend Timothy Levi Jones. There she is president of the Jazz Vipers, she's going to explain that to us, committee, now in its 21st year.
Wow.
Secretary of the lecture committee and serves on various ad hoc committees. When Miss Dorthane was named an NEA Jazz Master, she said, I was absolutely stunned. I don't know why, but she was stunned and speechless. She said, I'm never speechless. When I learned I was receiving the award, what an honor to be in such great company of others that have received it and to be acknowledged in such a great way for the work I love to do in jazz. Now, Miss Kirk resides in East Orange, New Jersey, and she's the mother of 3 daughters, one deceased, sorry to hear that, and has 5 grandchildren. What a bio. I tell you, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hit the welcome button there for our lady.
That's right.
All right. Welcome, Miss Kirk. We are so pleased and honored, as a matter of fact, to have you here. So you are into jazz, and as you hear me come in, bringing into our conversation, is that jazz is very much a part of our culture,
Yes.
our
very
history. Means so much. How did you manage to get into jazz?
I think, number one, good afternoon.
Good.
And thanks so much for having me.
much. Absolutely.
After we had a couple of false starts, I'm happy to be in the studio with you.
Yes.
And to answer your question, as I have said many times when I was on the bandstand, the podium, or what have you, my whole life has been what I call a direction from a higher being. Why do I say that? Because the things that I have done, it wasn't like I went after them or I planned it or said, this is what I'm going to do. A perfect example is how I came to WBGO. Rasan, as you read in the bio, my deceased husband had died, which left me wondering, what in the world am I going to do? Because my life had been traveling with him, etc. And so there was a good friend that we had established that lived in Boston, who worked for public radio in Boston. He called me up one day and said, what are you going to do now? I said, Steve, his name is Steve Robinson, and we're still in touch today. I have no idea, but I will figure it out. And then he told me he knew this young man by the name of Bob Ottenhoff. They were both around 29 or 30 in those days, which was 1978. And he said he's starting this public radio station in Newark, and it's going to have a jazz format. I'm going to suggest he hire you. Well, there's a documentary on WBGO, and I'm in it, and this is what I said to him. Oh, you are crazy. I know nothing about radio. Well, the rest is history.
Wow.
And that's just one example of how things have come to me. So
Right.
I think it was what I was put on this earth to do.
Oh, yeah, we all have a purpose.
Oh, yes.
Oh, have a purpose. You just got to recognize it. I'm going to get back to you, but I want to interrupt right now because talking about purpose, I want Rose to come on and tell us about what she's doing to do and the purpose of what we're trying to do here at the station that will enhance our effort.
Absolutely. I am honored and very thrilled and stand in anticipation of working with the young people as the director. And what we want to do is the idea that we have for the students is to talk about the history of Africa, who they are, where they come from, who their ancestors
Since they are
are,
taken away
their
from us.
line of their prodigy, so that they will know they come from a line of kings and queens, and they're God's firstborn. And we have a lot of exciting avenues in which to approach that with the children in a very creative manner, where the children will fit in through their ancestor connections, and each have a part to which to demonstrate and illustrate.
And where is that
their
coming from?
knowledge.
Where is that coming from? The school that you will talk about?
Right
the school
from
that,
here. as a
right, and
matter of
the
fact.
school that you've been established, just
A home school,
right?
a home school, and that my predecessor started and did a wonderful job. And I only hope that I can have
Oh,
fill
you
her
can.
shoes. I
Yeah.
only hope.
Yeah.
But we want the children to each come and have a presentation. That's the way we're going to start off, of one of their ancestors, and one of the great, I would say, spearheaders of African history. And so I'm real excited about it.
Well, you're
And
going
I
to be
hope you
talking a
will
lot
too.
more about it. I just want you to kind of give the public, my villagers, some idea, because I've been talking about how we're going to try to start something
it's
addition
coming. It's coming.
here. And I've said that how we will be bringing in people like the sister here
Yes.
that will inform us in all our areas of interest. And music is certainly one of them. And jazz is on top of that. So that's why we're so pleased to have her in here today. And if you have a question for her, because
Well, I read her bio, and it's a very, very extensive and exciting life that you lived, and more important, the contribution.
yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have any ideas of what is your next move in this direction?
At my age, and as you read, retired in 2018,
I did
I'm
too.
still a consultant with NJPAC. We talked about WBGO. I'm still a consultant with
Fantastic.
them. Matter of fact, if I may, last Saturday at the Montclair Museum, I produced a program for kids
Okay.
called the Children's Kids Series.
All right.
We started that program at WBGO in 1993, and it still goes on
Fantastic.
today. The purpose is to introduce young people to jazz before
Wow.
they establish their own ideas
We
about
may
what
want to have them
music.
on the show.
Yes,
Definitely.
I'm thinking the same
And
thing.
so BGO is continuing that. I'm busy there. Also, as you read, I'm busy at Bethany Baptist Church
Yes.
with Jazz Vespers. And I don't know how we will do this, but at some point I will share with you what our next Jazz Vespers is. So I'm as busy now as I was when I was working because there are also other things I'm doing in my life, such as packing up my husband's archives that have been donated to the Blockson Center at Temple University.
Wow.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
So I'm busy enough at this
Yes,
age.
you are.
Okay, I can see. I can see. Talk about your husband for a minute. I mean, I know he was the jazz impresario, right?
Right.
And you were just kind of assisting him.
He was actually from Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. He played all the woodwind instruments.
Okay.
He had, I think, if my memory serves me correct, he died really young, 41,
Yeah,
instantly, suddenly, I should say. And he had made 33 albums between his early years. Most of his years was spent on Atlantic Records. And finally, when he passed, he was signed to Warner Brothers. And so he traveled around the world. I traveled with him and to really diverse audiences. I think that's kind of brief of who he was.
Okay. And how, in traveling, that's interesting. So where
Yes.
did you go and how did you find the different audience acceptance of your, which was more forceful than the other?
The audiences were always very, very receptive. I don't like to say this, but it seemed that the audiences out of the United States were far more receptive than here. And I think that's a fault of us because they are really, really into jazz,
Yeah, this country.
art, and culture.
Well, that's
in
all planned, you
general.
know. Right.
And somehow other countries seem to embrace
Yes.
jazz much more than we do. That's not to say we don't, but for an example, right now, as you both probably know, the music has been taken out of a lot of schools and so
Right.
on and so forth. I think the trip that I loved most was the trip we took to Australia. And that's because I had always wondered about the Aborigines.
Yes,
And
me too.
I was able to actually, thanks to the concert producer, go to where they lived and have a conversation with them. And they were equally as inquisitive about African Americans. And that was in November of 1974.
Wow.
Yes, that was one of the most interesting. But I did get to travel to many, many, many countries.
That's exciting.
Yes.
That's exciting. And see, that's what our
That is
show
very
here is
exciting.
about, the African. We're trying to make us understand why certain things happen. Like I noticed you mentioned that it seemed to be more receptive over there. Well, there's a reason for that. Because, you know, we love jazz. We embrace our music. But I remember, I'm old enough to remember, I'm from the Southern South. I remember when our music was not even accepted. You couldn't allow our music to be played. And particularly, they
Public
were not,
places.
public place. And they were not allowed to listen to your music. I knew many youngsters in that day, I was a youngster, that was listening behind closed doors to jazz and other things, but their parents wouldn't. So that's all racism. When we got to, once we understand that, then we understand the dynamics behind why we don't do certain things that seem natural to do.
Right.
We love music, we love jazz, but if they, and even with our blues, if you remember, blues had just kind of died until it went to England, and those English
Revived
kids
it.
revived it.
Yes.
And it wasn't that we didn't want our music. It was that they had not allowed us the access to keep our music where it should have been.
Right.
And when it got there, they played it a lot more. But that's a very interesting, very interesting that they were so receptive
Yes.
over there.
That is so
But
true.
uh-huh.
I've heard a lot about that. I remember Miles Davis did very well in Germany,
Yes.
you know,
Oh, no
and
question.
how Germany loved and embraced the jazz.
They revived a lot of our blues, our jazz, our other music. Same as now. There are people who are still going across when they don't not a reception get a reception over here. The reception we get most over here, the one that cursing us or calling us names or whatever, then they're making a whole lot of money. And I'm not knocking them for doing. Yes, I am. I'm criticizing them for doing it, but
The
I mean, I
ignorance.
understand.
Yes, it's
I
their
understand
ignorance.
the dynamics behind it.
Yeah, right.
So, tell us about what you did. What was your what did you do before you got into this
Okay,
industry?
I've had several lives.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was doing this, number one, I'm originally from Houston.
Oh, wow.
And when I graduated high school, I moved to Los Angeles. In those days, it was very, very different. So I had a great aunt who lived in Los Angeles who had left Texas many years before. And she suggested I come and stay there with her and go to school because there were many more opportunities. To make a too long of a story short, I did start school. I didn't finish. I got married, had 3 children, but I worked for the Department of Public Social Services in LA. And I worked there until there came a time I met Rasan Roland Kirk. And that's what took me from Los Angeles to the East Coast. Yes, and that's really the short version. I can tend to take the scenic route sometimes, and I know time is of the essence.
We want to hear it. We want
Yeah,
to
we want to
hear
hear everything. Yeah,
the
that's
plight
it's
of your fabulous husband and his work and his legacy.
yeah.
You know?
And you know, I know it now. I didn't know it then. Going back to my purpose on earth,
Yeah.
when I started working for WBGO and producing concerts, I had a lot of information hidden in my brain that I didn't know I had. I'll give you an example because when I traveled with him, I called myself a permanent tourist because he had different people like a roadie to help him and so on and so forth. All I did was be a tourist and collect receipts to bring back to the accountant.
Okay.
Okay? But I would go to sound checks and what have you, and I learned several things. Number one was please have decent sound system and equipment for musicians. Please give them something, and I will just say it like this. If it's no more than a glass of water and a cracker, don't just bring them there. Have them sound check and perform and don't do anything. So I didn't know I knew all of that, but I've applied those principles to what I do today. Having worked in nonprofit all of this time, you never have the money to pay artists that the commercial entities have, but you can treat them royally
Right.
in other ways, and they will
Hospitality,
come to
yes.
your rescue.
Yes.
So over the years, I've been able to do all those things, and I'm telling you, and my record will show it. When I call them, they will come. When they answer the phone, and now it's email or text or whatever, they already know I'm not calling because I have a lot of money and they're going to be able to retire on it. But if they can find it in their schedule, they come to my rescue, and it's been a blessing. So I said all of that to say this: traveling with him was preparing me for what I was going to do in the future, but
Right.
I had no idea.
That's an interesting story.
Well, I would like to hear from you regarding that wonderful group that you've started and at your church. What are they called? The Drifters?
Okay, Jazz Vespers.
Disasters. Yes.
Jazz Vespers was established in 2000 by Reverend Dr. Moses William Howard Jr., who was the minister of Bethany at the time. The concept was formatted from St. Peter's Jazz Vespers in New York,
Okay.
who have been producing it, I can't remember now, but for many, many more years. Bethany being a Baptist church, there was pullback, And so this is what Dr. Howard said. Okay, we'll charter a bus. And those of you that are interested, we're going to New York to St. Peter's and witness Jazz Vespers. That was 25 years ago. Dr. Howard has been retired almost 10 years. Jazz Vespers goes on. We are currently celebrating our 25th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. On April the 25th.
That's right
We-
around the corner, huh?
Yes, it's coming up Saturday at 6 o'clock p.m. We have the great from New Jersey. She's actually originally from South Jersey, I think around Monroe Township. The great organist Rhoda Scott. She's known as the Barefoot Organ Lady.
Okay.
She lives in Paris, and she has for many, many years. However, I have kept in touch with her over the years. So she comes back periodically to visit her family who still live here. So last year I asked her, when are you coming to visit your family? And so from last year, leading up to Saturday, we were able to establish her trip to the U.S. And again, she's going to be there Saturday, April 5.
Exciting, huh?
Free and open to the public. Get there early, even though we have 2 parking lots, because we've already projected that it's going to be packed because she doesn't perform here very often. I can't remember the last time she performed in the U.S., specifically Newark, but be there. And we are a great committee. It takes a lot of people to produce Jazz Vespers because once I book the artists, there are a lot of other pieces. There's the technical part.
Yes.
There's the PR part.
Yes.
There's the hospitality part. There's the controllers in the office who take care of the payments and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of people. The Jazz Vespers committee has 20-plus people on it.
Okay.
Jerry Coles, who is responsible for this podcast today, has served on the Jazz Vespers committee since its inception.
Yeah, she talks
And
very
so-
highly about it.
Yes, and so we're really excited. Jazz Vespers takes place every first Saturday, January through June.
Okay.
And I must say, for the last few years, NJ Pack has been a partner with us. That's the New Jersey Performing Arts
Yes,
Center.
very
For
familiar
people
with
that
it.
might not know, some people, when you
Right.
give them just letters,
Yes.
They
they
don't
say,
know.
well, what's that? So
Yes,
I
yes.
needed to spell it out.
Yes.
We thank NJ Pack for their continued support. And what
Yes.
their dollars do is allow us to pay the artists, and I shouldn't say pay, give them an honorarium of more than I would normally because we do not charge at Bethany. As I said, it's free, so we depend on whatever the people put in the plate. We just
Right.
hope it's a
The
decent
offering, yes.
amount. So the money that NJ Pack help us to be a little fairer with the artists, but they understand that jazz artists, as probably other artists, have been in so many various different situations, and each one is different. So, so we're very proud of our accomplishments at
Yes.
Bethany.
You should be. You should be.
And
the next
a whole
time
lot
that
more
there
people are
is-
proud of you too.
Yeah.
A
Next
lot of
time that
people.
there's a jazz performance at NJ Pack, which is located in downtown Newark.
Yes.
But if anybody is not familiar with it, definitely let us know.
Yes, absolutely.
We will be there.
I am currently working with NJ Pack on the festival that they have every November. It's the T.D. James Moody Jazz Festival.
Okay.
It's sponsored by TD Bank, which is why NJ Pack can afford to contribute to us. One of the concerts will take place at Bethany on November the 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. So that's one of the projects down the road that I'm working on.
That's fabulous. I'm certainly going to look forward
Oh,
to being
definitely.
Thank you.
in the number.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're gonna
Now, I did hear you mention some children.
Yes, yes. My children,
Uh-huh.
I have two daughters.
Okay.
As the bio said, one daughter is deceased. I have 5 grandchildren. And at the time my last bio was written, I didn't have 2 great grandkids, a boy
Okay.
and a girl.
Uh-huh.
One is about to be 4. The boy
Okay.
is 3.5, and they are delights,
Of
even
course.
if I say so.
Of course,
myself.
I'm a
Why
grandmother.
not?
So-
Yeah, right.
So it's
Sounds like
so-
a tip of a grand.
It's a blessing to
Yes.
have 4 generations.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Are any of them musically inclined or
Absolutely
interested?
not.
No, isn't it?
Well, there's another job for you.
Not even close.
Isn't that
Even though when my grandkids, of course, my kids used to go to the clubs with me and Rasan. We were on the road so much until on certain occasions we'd take them to the clubs. My grandchildren grew up going to the WBGO children's concerts with me, so they have a cultural awareness of it.
Wonderful.
But they have other kinds of careers, but at least they have a background and they understand
Yes.
it's America's
Yes.
music
Yeah.
and our culture and so on and so forth. So all was not lost.
But that's
Yeah.
why we exist here.
Yes.
Because there are legacies and it's in our genes.
Yeah.
And we need to stir up, as the book of Timothy says, stir up those gifts that are in our children
Yeah.
and let them
Yes.
come forth. The thing about this country and their lack of reverence for the contribution that our people have made,
yeah.
despite that, our children are going to thrive,
Oh,
as you
definitely.
said.
And they're taken away as we speak.
Yes.
Trying to destroy
Yes.
the little history that was allowed.
Yes.
But now you sound like you have a whole lot of history. You ever thought about writing a book, or have you written?
You
anything?
know, that's interesting you would say that. I was talking to a friend in New York this morning, and I told her I don't have the time or I think the patience to write a book. People ask me that all the time. Having said that, I have mountains of taped interviews that I've done. I have a lot of material on Rasan, the deceased husband. And if somebody is interested enough, there's enough material for somebody far more qualified to write a book. And at this point in my life, again, I'm busy getting his archives together. I've sent a great portion, as I said earlier, to the Bloxham Center at Temple University. I do not want to leave this earth and my children have to wonder, what do we do with all
Exactly.
of
That's a
this?
great
Yes,
point.
absolutely.
That's just a reality.
That's
And
right.
to add to that, the Bloxham Center has also agreed. Matter of fact, they were jumping up and down because we were talking one day, and I said to the lady, I wonder, would anybody be interested in what I've done and all these awards and plaques? I said, my children will not know what to do with it. And she said to me, are you kidding? We'll take it. So a big portion of my
Wonderful.
life is
Wonderful.
spent packing up and going through archives to be at
Wonderful.
Bloxham Center. And they'll be there when I'm no longer around.
Keep that legacy going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you
Yes.
never know, the inspiration will rise up in one of the children because it's certainly in the genes.
Right.
Yes, they are they are very, very astute, and they get it. They have attended all kinds of events where I was honored, other jazz events, and my grandson that just turned 37, I think he just turned 37 on the 23rd of March, he has told me, Nana, I'm so glad you exposed us. He said,
Yes.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Because when they were younger, and this is one of the things I look back on and say, I was crazy. I have taken 2 generations to Broadway. And when my grandkids were little, on a Sunday afternoon, one of them wasn't big enough to go yet because the last grandkids, there's about an 8-year gap between them. But here I was on Broadway with 4 kids in a theater with hundreds of other kids seeing Annie. But it was great, and they enjoyed it. So I was young when I had children, but what that did was allow me to have a lot of fun with my grandchildren when they
Time
were
is
growing
important.
up.
Quality time is everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Now, you've had a lot of interest in music, but what made you not pursue that as a career yourself? Or can you sing?
I can't sing.
Oh.
It's funny you would say that.
Neither can
When
I.
we used to be on the road, everybody would say, "Are you with the group?" I'm like, no, I'm not a singer. I can't sing. My mother played piano in church in Texas. I always wanted to play the piano. And even though Rasan was a saxophonist, to this day, keyboards are my favorite instruments. For whatever reason, I never took the piano up, but it's my favorite instrument. But I enjoy hearing others. I wasn't supposed to. Let's just say that.
Yeah, apparently not, because you were surrounded by all that music and
Yes.
everything, and if it had been in the plan, you would have certainly picked it up.
Yes.
Yes, it would have resonated.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's
yes.
good just to have that opportunity to be
Yes,
around it.
Yes.
My sister plays piano. I've never learned because I started out around the same time she did. We went out in this place and bought a piano way back when. I put mine in my house and she put hers, and in 6 months' time she had really acquired some knowledge.
Wow.
She had done enough in 6 months that carried her throughout, She learned, she continued to pursue and do her craft. But I haven't to date learned a note.
Right.
I desire, but I just never. My husband was a roadie,
Wow.
very much tied up into music in this town right here. And I've always loved being around musicians. And it's funny because although I did not share in that because it was a later marriage, my second marriage, when we went to church and served God together, he was a music minister.
Wow.
And now that he's gone, I still have all that music in my head and I'm able to apply it. So we all have a role to play.
Our purpose, as we said before. We
He
all
needed
have
a
purpose.
wife.
Right. Exactly.
He needed a companion.
Yes.
And you got him through. So we're grateful and we are thankful that you are able to share that.
Yeah, because you have a
legacy.
knowledge, just a wealth of
Yes.
Yes.
not only knowledge, you have it's there.
Yes.
Like you say, even in Newark, it's a continuation. It's an annual thing. And then it's interesting to hear about the radio the WBGO, and how you were involved in that. You know,
Still involved.
still involved.
Again, I think the things that I am doing and have done is what I was put on this earth to do.
yes,
That's the
yes,
explanation
yes.
I have.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, well, is there anything else you want to share with us? Because it's just fascinating. I tell you, I'm sitting up here saying, well, gee, I
Yes,
didn't know we had
what
that
a
right on
quite-
our nose.
Quite a life.
Well, I always follow the lead of the person asking the question.
Oh, no, you're here for you to explain. You give us your
feel
information.
I'm not
free.
good at just off the
Ad-libbing.
top of my head, but
Yeah.
sometimes one thing will
Leads you to
make
the other.
me think about something else. But
Yeah, I'm flabbergasted.
yeah, what I really, really wanted to share was how blessed I am to still, at this point in my life, be able to do things like Jazz Vespers
Yes.
and
Yes.
NJ-PAC, because a lot of the things that I am still doing, and Vespers is a good example, brings joy to people that otherwise might not
Be
have,
exposed. Absolutely.
because it's free
Absolutely.
and with the economy and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Today,
Right.
everybody just can't afford to pay high ticket prices. They might want to go and see jazz. And so it's an outlet for people to come and enjoy themselves. And as far as Jazz Vespers goes, the music isn't in the neighborhood and around the corner in Newark as it once was. I believe
Yes.
Clem's Place, which is a part of the Institute of Jazz Studies at Rutgers, it's one of the few places that present jazz on a consistent level. And so it's very important what we're doing at Bethany in more ways than one.
Now, not to put you on the spot, but are you about name dropping? Could you tell us some of the big jazz people that you've had the opportunity to be in concert with?
I can name drop.
Yeah,
And
that's what we want to hear.
I would like to say that I think Bethany, to some degree, I'm not giving them all of the credit, but there are a couple of jazz artists that Bethany presented more than one time who are very, very famous now, making a lot of money and playing all the big venues around the world. And we are very proud of that. And one is Gregory Porter.
Oh, I love Gregory
Porter performed twice at Bethany
Okay.
before the big wide world knew him. But see, I had seen him in small venues and what have you. And I said, his talent is not being recognized.
Oh, he's fantastic.
So to make a long story short, I think through Bethany, and he eventually performed at the museum, and then he performed at William Patterson College. And I think it was venues such as those that helped to get him the exposure, and he blew up.
Yes, he
The
did.
other one is Samara Joy. I don't know if you all are familiar. She's only 26 years old, I believe, 24, 26, somewhere there. She performed at Bethany 3 times before the big wide world knew her. She won the Sarah Vaughan Vocal Competition, which is part of the festival that I spoke about earlier, the T.D. James Moody Jazz Festival. She won the Sarah Vaughan Vocal Competition in 2019. We had her early 2020 at Bethany before COVID. During COVID, we presented her during our regular church service virtually. Then after COVID, we presented her as part of Jazz Vespers once more, and since that time, she's going through the roof.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, well,
yes.
that's
Fantastic.
So we have been instrumental in some small way
Yes.
in a lot of jazz musicians' career. Mhm.
Have you heard of the group called, I think it's, what is it, Sounds of AR?
I
Two-
do not know them.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Right.
Yeah.
I do not know
Young
them.
man and they're husband and wife, but they're young.
Well, I would just thank God for the contribution, because a
definitely.
lot of our African descent Americans got their start in church.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
most of them.
That's why Jazz Vespers is easy. Jazz musicians were just kids and people too, and many of them had fathers. Cyrus Chestnut is a good example. The pianist Cyrus Chestnut, who we presented several times, his dad was a minister. So many of the artists grew up in various churches, so they quote unquote get it, and they are happy to come back and perform in that particular venue.
That is just fantastic. It's just wonderful.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to cut off, but Norm, do we have don't forget our crew that might be tuning in. I don't want to miss them. I don't think I'm not thinking about them. Oh, okay. Let me just call out a few here. Sheila Bird, Rashida Johnson, Terry Benjamin, Joanne Dyke, thank for Robert Cabbage Stock, we're watching. Shalonda Will Smith, Juanita, we are so appreciative. Juanita McClure, I hope you're doing good, baby. Dina Robinson, I just so pleased that you all watch, because this was a great show today, and we told you that we had this
Wonderful
excellent
guest.
guest
Thank you.
on here. And you just want you to continue, my villagers, I call you, or we call you R. And you're part of the village. So you just continue to watch and support us, because that's what we need. We bring people on for your, not entertainment, but for your knowledge, but for us to know who we are.
Yes.
And in spite of who they're trying to eliminate our history, we know that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Because here we will bring our history to you as we promise you. Each time we appear before you, you will know
Absolutely.
something about us as African people, because we got a lot of history. And as you had heard the Queen here talk earlier, Queen Kirk, she talked about how it seems that sometimes we don't recognize the gift and talents we have where others do us, outside of our area. Of course, I always contend that's the reason behind that. You do better, you know better, you do better. And if we understand that the stripping that happened to us to eliminate us of the knowledge of who we are. The same as this, one of the things that might be good about what this crazy man in the White House is doing is to wake us up to understand that there is something mighty about us that other
Yes.
folks are so jealous of that they're trying to just eliminate. Because why would you want to destroy the history of anybody if it doesn't, if it's not something that you're afraid going to, in some way, overwhelm whatever you're trying to promote about yourself. So we are just so pleased to be able to bring people on like our sister here. And you all know that we have, over the last 2 years now, I think we're going into the 2-year period, we have brought great people. As I said before, the show is Unapologetic Amateur, looking for experts in Africanism, which means that we bring in our black people who have voices to speak on things, but at the same time we are bringing in those people who specific in areas of Africanism, who know.
Educate us.
Yeah,
Yes.
educate us as to why and the how of us getting to the point we
Yes.
are now. Because when you think about it, when you know a little bit about your history, the first thing you hear, well, from Africa, we was the greatest this and we was the greatest that.
Yes.
And if that is the case, then you look at what we are now.
Yes.
And I've often said that
Our
we
struggle.
we are people who don't look beyond our circumstances. See, our circumstances show us now that we are the least in wealth, least in health, least in education. Then we say, well, why? Then some our younger people who have not had their history and the little that has been given is taken away. Certainly question the whole concept of we being those great people that our history prior to our being stolen and brought over here, show that we were. So that's why this podcast will try to bring in people who will share what they know, and then those who know who knows. Maybe other folks who know. Like I call myself an unapologetic amateur, and I don't say it for cuteness. I say it because I am, to the extent that, and I make the analogies. I say when I use that term, I mean in terms of this virus that came through, this pandemic. When it came through, it just stopped us. We had no one had seen anything like it. In 100 years, you had to be like 200 years old, I guess, to have seen anything like it. I haven't read anything like it. But you had to have been, so no one had seen anything. And we knew we need special people then to get to the bottom of, or to at least figure out what we needed to do and how we needed to go about it, how we needed to apply ourselves. Well, I call what we went through, you all know I do, I call it the African slave virus 401, because I see it as a virus. When they stole us from our homeland, all the greatness, and brought us over here, stripped us of everything, and then all of a sudden we are at the bottom of everything, something got to tell us. And it's not natural. I don't blame any of us. I don't blame it for knowing, because if you don't know, you don't know.
Absolutely.
That's like with that virus. I may know about viruses,
right,
but I didn't know how to attack the
involved.
dynamics of it. So in order for us to understand the dynamic of where we are at this station of our lives compared to the history book, what they say about what we were in Africa, we got to get very serious. We got to get intentional and deliberate about regaining the knowledge that we know are out there somewhere. And I say that because that's how I want to try to encourage our people, the ones who have that specific knowledge, to come together, not just one, because it's going to take about 3 different type of people to get us where we need to be. I told you it's going to take that faith-based person, the faith-based person who knows what they know about us as African people, and the historian that knows and the psychologist.
Absolutely.
Those 3 people get together and try to figure out for us how we got to this point. Then we'll learn to appreciate ourselves. So when we have folks like this, your president, taking away all the knowledge the little knowledge, then we will be able to ourselves. We'll regain it. We will not allow. It's not going to happen anyway. I guarantee you, he's not going to be able to do that.
Not going to be.
There's too many of us now so determined. I listened to my pastor, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Garden, Dr. Quick. He's just on top of it. He was on top of it before he came in. Because we had the freedom schools, and the freedom school is just school that was done way back when, when our churches were giving us the knowledge that we had when they weren't allowing us to
and wouldn't otherwise be getting if it didn't come
from the church. So he's just following that tradition. But he's now having these freedom schools, every year, but what you call
each
it?
semester.
Semester, that's what I'm
each
trying
semester.
And so, which is great, and I'm so pleased and so thankful. So he's teaching us the history that sometimes we don't get in some of these churches, but I'm so glad about that. So
I've learned so much.
Learned so much. It just was an interesting, it was just an interesting thing last Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
About that dance that we all kind of do, Jerusalem, I think its name, and everybody will recognize it. They may not know it particularly because they don't know the significance of it. We just dance to it. It's one of those lime dance type of things.
Yes.
But there's something behind it.
And we learned.
We learned Saturday.
The African roots.
That it was from South Africa.
And it's worship.
Worship. And we just dancing to it. We don't know what we're dancing to, but that's what it is. But I'm just so pleased. Again, I can't thank Sister Kirk enough. I call her Queen Kirk because what I said to my people here as we begin this podcast, I said, because we have been brought over here stolen. When we were stolen, we weren't slaves, and we weren't the least of. We were the best of the best because that's what they needed to come here and build this country. So when we were brought over here, we were brought sometime as royalty, queens, king, you know. So I said,
had no
rather
idea.
than point fingers at us when we see each other today in whatever station we think we're in, look at us as maybe one of the kings and queens. So we have, in this podcast, we have come to find our people, greet our people at Queen Rose, you know, King Norm, you know. So we give them credit because we know that we could very well be those kings and queens that were brought over from Africa. Again, my queen sister Kurt, we are so pleased to have
Yes,
you here.
we are.
We want to
What a blessing.
Yeah, whenever you
Again.
need to come back and
What a blessing.
inform us of whomever coming into your orbit, let us know.
Thank you.
We
and
appreciate you
please
so much.
keep up the good work.
And come
And
back again.
Yeah.
Please.
I will. And
Okay.
thanks to Jerry Cole
Yes,
for,
I thank Jerry for yes, because
organizing this.
she was determined.
She's really, really persistent.
Yeah.
As I always say about her, she doesn't know how to not do good.
Yeah, she's
And-
always.
That's what
And
I
she's a
know.
blessing. She's been part of my family for many, many years.
Okay.
Yes, not only my Bethany family, but my biological family.
Right. Good. Yes,
Including
she is.
my sister and niece in Houston.
Okay.
We thank them.
Yes.
We thank them all.
Thank you
Yes.
for you. Okay, well, we're going to look like we're going to have to cut out here now. It's been a great show today. I so appreciate you, my villagers, for just tuning in. You believe me. And you know how you can share with us. Just make sure you hit the buttons that allow other folks to watch. So appreciate you so much. God bless.